All right, everybody. If you're hearing me, let me know. If you're not hearing me, hi there, irresistible one. Good night. What makes you so irresistible? Hey, Miss Aquarius Shan. Sorry for the late start, but um, hey, Narissa, it seems like when one thing goes bad, everything else goes bad. So tonight has just been one of those nights. I can't get my phone to charge up, so I couldn't use the phone, and then the computer was just, well, the piece of thing, and go slow. Still trying to source a proper computer. Hey, Carrie. So suggestions are welcomed. It must be something that could, you know, be easy on the eyes when it comes to editing, and that could carry this program and everything else that I do. A million and one things. So any suggestions, inbox me. So tonight, like I said, we just have a few things to talk about. I want to read something for you. I've read this before, and so those of you who have been on here for a while, you would hear this, you would know it, you recognize it. But like I said, something I haven't read in a while, and I think it's really important that we do so tonight for a number of reasons. Now, let me see if I. Hey, Wang Pang Lo. Hey, Andrea. Andrea, was it you who sent the pavement chalk? I'm trying to remember. Sky tip. Good night. Hey, Hope. Good night, Nikisha. Let me see if I can share this screen with you. Hopefully, it does not freeze. No. So who sent the cement chalk? Somebody sent my daughter some cement chalk. Ken's is the one who delivered them. I can't remember who he said sent them, but they have certainly been quite some help. Okay, there it is. Let's see. Okay, so I want to first start off tonight by talking about rape and rape culture. Now, a few years ago, Zeta Barnwell and my Eustace Exeter, congratulations, Maya and Ben, started, you know, talking about this term, rape culture. And a few persons were listening, most people were not listening. And so they started talking about, St. Vincent. Hey, Richard. Hey, Marissa. St. Vincent having this rape culture. Years later, um, local psychologist, I think she is a psychologist, Kimberly Cambridge came and she mentioned the term rape culture. Now, with Maya and Zeta, it was easy to string them up and say, oh, NDP trying to make the country look bad. But when Kimberly came along, being a government employee and being someone who isn't affiliated, to a political party, they didn't know which way to bat, you know. And so what happened was that radio personalities and many others just started saying, you know what, no, we don't have such a thing as a rape culture. And it was twisted all sorts of how um we behaving as though people out here just raping people in the streets and that kind of thing. And the sad thing about it is that if you were to look at things that literal, it's true. Like, hey, Winston, if you were to look at it as if we just raping everybody out here, as exaggerated as that sounds, it's true. Because not that rapists have any sort of you know discretion in the sense that, oh, they would only rape whites, blacks, Indians. Maybe some do, maybe that's their perversion. um but the point I'm making here is this, that when it comes to rape in St. Vincent and Grenadines, there's no limit to age, no limit to um sex, no sort of limit whatsoever. As in other places in the world, don't get me wrong, as in other places in the world, it's just that I'm speaking about this little, you know, this is a piece of rock or these pieces of rocks that we're on here. And I hate when people come to say, oh, but it happened, that does happen all over the world. I really don't care. I don't care if, and when I say I don't care, not that I'm cold hearted towards it or I don't see any significance in talking about it, but to say that I am concerned, I'm primarily concerned with this rock. Hey, Judy, I am primarily concerned with these rocks that we live on, these rocks called St. Vincent and Grenadines. Hey, Carol, good evening, good evening, good evening. Yeah, I had to do over this. Um, exactly. Always ready to say that people want to talk and make the country look bad. Now, if you're not on the direct live, which is on the show's page, I won't see your name. I will just see Facebook user, but I will see a comment. And I think there's something that you have to do to give Facebook permission to share your name on the live too. So if you don't do that, I won't see the names unless you're on the direct stream on my friends list or whatever the case is. Um, hey Anne Marie. No. So yeah, so don't tell me that it's happening all over the world as though that is some reason why I should dismiss it happening here. Hey Marianne, welcome. Haven't started really, but welcome, welcome, welcome for those of you here. Please share the live because we're going to talk about something very interesting tonight. We're going to be in school tonight, and the topic tonight, first topic is rape culture. Now, that it happens elsewhere in the world, yes, it does. But don't give me that as something to say, or because it happened elsewhere in the world, I shouldn't be bothered about it happening here. So babies are raped all over the world. So what if they're raping centimeters? That's what you're trying to say to people? No, no. Women are raped all over. So you're trying to tell me that I shouldn't be bothered about being women being raped 10 siblings grannies because women are raped all over the world? Really? Hey Velda, good night. Um Good night, Facebook. You, as I just said, if you have not given permission to share your name, I won't see your name. And if you're not on the direct link, which is on the page show, this show, if you're not on that page, I won't see your name. So the person said, "Night, Adrian. I think you're probably commenting from maybe the central spot or somewhere. Good night, but I can't see your name." So Winston is saying that recent video with that young lady, what stood out to me, the person in it spoke of a similar experience, and there was another female we just heard her voice said she also had a similar experience. As you had three females in that video, and all three had that similar experience. Thank you, Winston. And Winston, I said it before that many women in St. Vincent and Grenadines, their first encounter in anything sexual was rape. And that's something, hey Holly, that they themselves have not come to terms with or have not categorized as rape. And it is something that the men have not categorized as rape. And let me explain. Many times, I remember one time I had a Form 4 class and I was talking to them about sex and that sort of thing. And I said to them, I said, look, if you're, somewhere with whomever and they start telling you, oh, let me just do this, um let me just touch it, let me just do that, let me just whatever, I'm like, no, get out of that situation. And the reason why I bring that up is to say that many times that first encounter and even many encounters after that, women are coerced into having sex. And if you're coercing somebody into having sex, as much as you do not want to hear it, brother man, that's rape. In most jurisdictions, that's categorized as rape. When you have to coerce somebody, because what you're doing, you're taking away free will. What is being done in most international classes where health and family life education or sex ed is done, they'll tell the students simply this: every step of the way gain consent. Every step. So you want to kiss, hey Tamara, good night. Hey Michelle. Well, that is the part they don't talk about, Michelle. They don't talk about people being taken to jail in other parts of the world for the things that we just simply talk and laugh about here. They don't talk about that part. They miss out that part. So yes, they tell you gain consent. So you want to kiss the person, ask if they're comfortable, ask if they're okay with that. Right? If you want to, like, let's say you want to start kissing them on the mouth or whatever the case is, make sure that they're okay with that. You want to start kissing them lower places, hey Arlene, gain consent. You want to fondle their breasts, gain consent. You want to play with their butt, gain consent. You want to touch their vagina or their penis, gain consent. You want to actually penetrate, gain consent. Hey Andrea, hey Pauline, correctly, a man should respect you when you say no. So to avoid raping anybody, gain consent. Ensure that that person is giving you, because in some jurisdictions, it says clearly that the person has to give you a clear consensual yes. As in, like I just said, you ask, could I touch you here? And the person says yes. Not that they're saying yes because they're afraid you're going to throw them. Hey, Pauline, you're going to throw them out um on the beach at 1 o'clock in the morning and they have to try and go home by themselves. Not a yes because it's a guy and you threatened him that if he doesn't give in, you're going to tell everybody how his penis is smaller or he can't have sex or he can't kiss or he can't, whatever the case is. Not a yes because you made them feel guilty because you bought dinner for them and you're there, oh, imagine I buy you lobster and I buy you this and you can't give me peace, and you can't. No, that's not a yes. That is like Ralph and the mandate, where he's taken away people's right to say yes or to say no. He's taken away people's free will and is now imposing a vaccine on us. And that is why when I think it was Nikisha Williams who said it, that it's like rape. And people started on her, oh, how that gonna be like rape? As a woman, why is she saying that? And she know what rape is? And it's the same idea of not being able to say yes, not giving a consensual yes. That's what Nikisha was getting at. Not giving a yes, a free yes. As in, I've thought about this, I want to do this, I'm okay with you doing this, let's go for it. Once you take that out of the picture, then you're not, the person doesn't have a will anymore, they don't have free will, they don't have choice anymore. So that's what Nikisha was getting at, and some of you couldn't see it because you're so blinded by the politics, the partisan politics. Correct, Tamara. Once you don't give consent, it's rape. And thank you, Winston. Winston is saying coerced, groomed, and whatever. Wrong is wrong. And that's the point. That's the point. You don't give consent, as in you don't freely give consent. And that's why sometimes when videos are leaked, like for instance, when Oline spoke her truth and y'all started on her, oh, she been love it and she been this and she been that, and I'm there like, seriously, are we still this primitive? But you know what I've realized? I've realized that, let me take this off the screen for a bit. I've realized that for many of you, until you yourself are in the situation, until your sister, your brother, your auntie, your uncle, your mother, whomever, your friend is in the situation, it's like your brain cannot help you to understand what sometimes a woman does to survive such an experience. People say, oh, she had an orgasm, so it couldn't have been rape. Or he ejaculated, so it couldn't have been rape. Or she was moaning, or he was moaning, so it couldn't be rape. Or she was smiling too much, that can't be rape. Or she was laughing and talking with the man, that can't be rape. Yes, Eric, I can see you now. we have we seem to have this textbook something of what rape is. So we start the checklist. Mm, smiling. Mm-mm, not rape. Talking to the person. Uh-uh, definitely not rape. Had an orgasm. Oh dear Lord, well you know she ain't get raped. Mm. Walked willingly into the home. She didn't want it. That ain't rape. Mm. And look how she talking, but it's easy, easy now. Mm-mm. That ain't a rape. And she didn't go to the police? Hell no. That's not rape. We have this whole checklist to determine whether, hey Gilbert, whether we think somebody was raped or not. And Pauline said that some women need to understand that even if you're married, you you're allowed to give consent or to take consent for sexual acts. Correct. So even your husband could rape you, even your wife could rape you. If you don't give consent, then don't give consent. And when you get married to somebody, you do not give them unconditional consent. That marriage vow or certificate is not unconditional consent to your body. It isn't. Yes, Winston, people do justify these things in that way. Just like how I listed them that as raw as that song, that's just how people do things out here. That is just how people do things out here. So they have their whole list of things where you could not have been raped. There are instances that have been reported with women actually offering to give blowjobs to men who were in the act of raping them. Why? Because they thought that if they didn't do something like that, they might end up being worse off. I remember reading something, I think was in either Reader's Digest or Cosmopolitan. That was way back when I used to collect magazines. And this girl was relaying this incident. Now, in her neighborhood, there are a number of break-ins with women who were raped, and some ended up hospitalized and all sorts of things. It so happened that one night she went home and found an intruder, and sure enough, he was there to rape her. And she recounted the thing, and she said, "Look, as he threw her down on this floor, she realized, you know what? She had to do what she had to do to survive." And so she began talking to him, and she made it out as though it was I can't say friendly, but she tried to make him believe as though she was there taking part in this thing, and just to ensure that she survived. Now, if somebody hence and Vince were to come and recount such a thing to you and say, "Oh well, I offered him a blowjob, and I gave him a blowjob, and then afterwards, after he finished raping me, he left." The minute you hear blowjob half for you, you're gonna be like, "Well, that ain't a rape. That ain't a rape because if you been raping, she would have bite it off." That's how we are. That's how we are as Vincentians, and not just Vincentians, but I'm speaking to Vincentians primarily. Primarily. Michelle, the law boxing Miss is basically talk about intercourse, a man having intercourse with a woman. That's how rape is basically defined. Man having intercourse with man is not defined as rape. I had these things down before me, but anyways, it's basically man penetrating woman. Anyways, yeah, we need to stop. We need to stop. And we need to act as though we're a civilized society. And that's why I don't buy into this whole nonsense about education revolution and watch so many people going off to university. Because guess what? So many people going off to university, coming back, and the country still does. Because when you look on social media, enough of the people who you see on the top commenting and talking all kind of nonsense, they have degree or degrees to their names. So what is the point in telling me that we have so many people at university when I don't sit in the discussions that we have here? I don't sit in the rhetoric that is being pushed. I don't sit. Look, this young lady came out yesterday or the day before and talked about an experience that she had. Mind you, hi, my Tegan. Mind you, that experience that she had, the gentleman, the man, can't call him gentleman now. The man happens to be a past student of mine. Imagine that. So imagine my shock when I was sent. Well, first of all, I was sent the video in the afternoon, and I asked my friend, I said, "What is that?" And she said, "Oh, is this lady recounting X, Y, and Z?" So I went on it, and I was like, okay. I watched for like a minute or so, and then I logged off. And it wasn't until late in the evening after I realized, you know, what it was all about, in terms of I saw all the comments on Facebook, and I was like, wait, this thing is something really, really big. What is this? So then I went and I looked at the whole video, and I'm there thinking to myself, wow. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, there's somebody watching this video who is going to have all sorts of things to say about this girl. What she are ringing she knows. Mm-mm. People are ringing in those can't get rape, right? Mm-hmm. Was she having locks? Mm-hmm. Yeah, was she talking? Mm-hmm. And they're going to find all sorts of reasons to say that child was not assaulted. Now, the funny thing about assault is this. In St. Vincent and Grenadines, the things that, okay, when we look at TV, we see a lot of things being defined as assault. That ain't the case here. That ain't the case here in St. Vincent, but as a whole other show by itself. Now, all I have to say to that young lady is that I believe her. And I am not like the judge who told a friend of mine or who asked a friend of mine if she had any witnesses because she went to court having been raped. So, hold on a minute, please. Okay, so she went to court because she was raped, and the judge wanted to know if she had a witness because it's common knowledge, right, that women walk around with a witness just in case they're going to be raped. And that case was thrown out because she didn't have a witness. True story. True, true, true story. So yeah, back to what I was saying. Hey Brighton, we come with all sorts of reasons why somebody wasn't raped or could not have been raped. We said, I think it was Margaret Parsons, the lady from England, sorry, from Canada, I think that was her name, when she said that Ralph Gonsalves assaulted her. Now, some of you on this live here right now were assaulted by Ralph Gonsalves. But yet, you were also part of the party to say, oh, she too ugly, and she too fat, and she too this, and she too that. Because I guess fat people can't be raped, right? And nobody rapes ugly people. And not like the woman was ugly neither, you know. Well, hear the thing about the laws now, eh? And I will say this much and then go back to the article that I want to share with you. Now, we know the laws need to be amended. We know that. We know that big time. Look, the whole incident with the 4-year-old. Now, the maximum in the court, Britain could correct me if I'm wrong here, was 5 years. All of a sudden, as Ralph is asked a question on the radio on the whole issue of the laws and so forth, he goes, oh, the judge could have simply done her own thing. She could have just gone rogue and give him any amount of years that she feel like giving him. And I was like, eh. Now, I ain't no lawyer like Burton Horn, but I know that's BS. But guess what? And again, this is why I will say to y'all, don't come to me about any education revolution and about how many people going out there to study, because if you're going out there to study and you're still coming back dunce, education is not working out. Just go somewhere in a library, sit down and read some books, please. You'll be far better off because you don't have to gain education in a formal institution. But if you're going to pay some money to get education in a formal institution, I beg you, don't just go to study mathematics and come back home with only maths in your head. Don't go to study history and come back home with history in your head. Go and actually gain a world view. Good? So Ralph is like, oh, the judge could have just do away with what is on the books and given him man any amount of years she felt like giving him. In other words, what he's trying to say to you is this: you don't need to change your laws. The laws are sufficient. You don't need to change them. Total BS. A judge can't just pull out something that isn't on the law books, because if I'm representing somebody and the maximum for their crime is 10 years, and a judge decides, well, okay, she like my client a little bit too red skin, she going to give him 20 years. She feel like. You think I'm going to sit down and just take that and say, okay, I'm going to appeal it. And most likely, when it's appealed, it'll go back to what is on the books. So why waste time like that? Why waste time like that? Frederick Fraser say, trying to set up the judge. Ralph is a mob donkey. Well, you see, Al, he wouldn't amend the laws and he wouldn't push to amend the laws. And only the nasty men in his cabinet would push for a law to amend the laws. And we have Kisal Kesrick and some other guy going to the United Nations and lying through their teeth about things that happened here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So we know them ain't going to be pushing for no change of laws neither. We all know own. Ralph and them ain't going to push for no change of laws. Because when they push a change of laws now, then they have to clean up things like enforcement. And when you do that, easier to hook them. Easier to hook them and the nastiness. Don't forget Yogi. Don't forget the lady who stood up in New York and said plain in front of everybody that Ralph raped her. Don't forget the police lady who said Ralph raped her. And at the end of the day, Ralph could come out and say, after people like girl in Renee and Audrey could go and had a whole big rape rally, Ralph himself could say that he got up out of his bed and went and kissed the woman. Give her a reassuring kiss. Assault. Because the woman clearly said she did not want to have anything to do with him in that kind of light. So after he said that he kissed her, even though she didn't want him to kiss her, you think he going to be changing any laws out here? So it's easier to string up his little tail? Well, tail in little, but you know what I mean. Hey, Charmin, where have you been? I've been missing you, girl. I've been missing you. So yeah, them ain't changing no laws out here. Them ain't going to amend anything out here, because if they amend anything out here, change anything out here, it's easier for them to get caught because they are a bunch of dirty men. That's what they are. Michelle Andrews, the police lady. And then you know the thing about it, Tuna, Ali had big rape rally to support Ralph. Big rape rally to support Ralph and hang Michelle Andrews. Hang Michelle Andrews when Ralph himself confessed to sexually assaulting the woman. So if you get up out in bed to kiss her, why is it you didn't believe that he raped her too? Why you can't believe that? So he just get up out in bed for just go and kiss she? You feel so? You feel he just get up out of his bed to go kiss Michelle? That is all he got up out of his bed to do? Please. But no. All he jumping up behind him and drag Michelle down to the ground. Drag Michelle down to the ground. When the more and more you look at the case, you have to believe the woman. You have to believe the woman. So if she said she was raped by him, I believe her, she was raped. But no, they're gonna have big rape rally. Or she trying to pull down the comrade. She trying to do this. No, the comrade nasty. He Julian all them nasty. Miranda Woods. That was the one in New York. Miranda Woods. Miranda stood up in a room, a full room, and said plainly, you Ralph Gonsalves, you rape me. And all the string up Michelle and Miranda. So, point is this. Don't bother Ralph and his choppiness, but judge could just give people any amount of years they want to give. He's senile. So that's why he does talk on them dotishness, because he's senile. Chop it. Brain ain't good. So anything that comes through his bottom, comes through his mouth. Because the brain ain't good. He thinks with his butt. So somebody's asking, as a police woman, she could not defend herself. Now, this is the BS that does get to me. Now, a man comes to you, not just a man, your boss, who happens to be the prime minister of a country, comes to you at whatever hour in the morning, box you up. Now, there are few people who would have the mental capacity to do something. There are few people too who would have the strength to overpower somebody who has the intention of raping them. So don't come on here and ask if as a policewoman she couldn't defend herself. Please don't ask me that. Please don't ask me that. What did you expect her to do? To take out a gun and shoot him? And then should I go to jail for having killed the prime minister or so? Let's go back to that thing there. And look at rape culture. And like I say, if you have not given permission to share your name, I won't be able to see your name. And if you're not on the page called This Show, I would not see your name. Now tell me, Frederick, he's beyond nasty. Okay, so this is from, like I said, I've shared this before. It's from Marshall University. It says, rape culture. What is the rape culture? Rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. Rape culture is perpetuated through the use of misogynistic language, the objectification of women, their bodies, and the glamorization of sexual violence, thereby creating a society that disregards women's rights and safety. When Crystal raised the question to Ralph and said basically that as a woman, she doesn't feel safe, what was Ralph's response? Anybody could tell me what was Ralph's response? I'll go wait for the answer. Crystal said that, basically as a woman, Henson Vincent Wendy's, she doesn't feel safe. She doesn't think that laws are adequate or support whatever. What was Ralph Gonsalves' response to Crystal raising the issue of women's safety here? I want an answer. I tell her we're in school tonight. I want somebody who looked at the interview to remind me what was Ralph's response when Crystal said that, basically, things not to safe in this country for women, not to cautious people that say sometimes. It ain't looking too safe. Things ain't too nice. I'm waiting for the comment to pop up. I can't see it yet. I want somebody to tell me what was Ralph's response. And I'm waiting patiently. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because the last part of this thing says, it creates a society that disregards women's rights and safety. And Marie says, absolute nonsense. That was Ralph's response. Here he is, being interviewed by a young woman who is saying to him that, basically she doesn't feel safe in St. Vincent. Women don't generally feel safe in St. Vincent. It seems as though, we're targets more or less. And Ralph's response was total rubbish. You're talking nonsense. Totally dismissing that. That right there is the epitome of what rape culture is. That right there. When you have a society that disregards the safety of women, that right there tells you, coming from Ralph himself, the prime minister who's had more sexual deviance accusations, hopefully that came out right, than anybody else in such a position in this region, maybe even in the world, perhaps the world. You know what? I think Ralph has probably been accused of rape more often than any other world leader. Because anywhere else he would have been brought down. So he probably has the record for the most sexual deviance accusations and rape allegations. What a record to have as a prime minister. And you're all fighting him out, he's still jumping up. Yeah, best prime minister, my bottom foot. So let's go back. So it says, hey, sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in the media and popular culture. Now, there's a song a couple of years ago that eventually got banned, that Kicking the Back Door song from Antigua. You heard that song and you dance and you love it up and you carry on. And then when you really and truly listen to the lyrics, you're like, what the hell are they singing about? Is he talking about rape? Is this song glorifying rape? Eventually it was banned. And there are a couple of the songs too that talk about what you should do if a woman doesn't consent, if she doesn't tell you it's okay. How do you proceed afterwards? Basically, embellishing rape. It says rape culture is perpetuated through the use of misogynistic language. Misogynistic language, basically, language that does not favor women, language that does not put women in a good light. Good. So those B words and those C words that we use to refer to women, yeah. Yeah, so that's basically what misogyny is. There's this strong dislike of women, and it comes out in language that is used. The objectification of women's bodies. You must ask Pitbull about this. He telling me you must ask him about this. I read a conversation. That's why I see when that guy was placed as a senator, I went and I said plainly, another misogynistic pervert being appointed to parliament. And yes, perfect ministry to put him under, Ralph. Because a young lady sent me a conversation she had with him. Plus, when ULP had their youth rally, I sat down and listened to this man go on about how he used to watch girls in GHS bathroom, and he wondering if grammar school boys are still do them things. And I'm there saying to myself, what the hell? This is a rally geared towards young people and getting them to vote for the ULP. And the only thing you could find to talk about is how you used to watch girls in the GHS bathroom. I was like, what kind of nastiness is this? So I just cut out. And then then he was appointed as a senator. I was like, no man. Mm-mm. And I saw people on Facebook, oh, congratulations, Richard, whatever you name, however you pronounce it. Congratulations, come there. And I'm like, you. And because of, well, what I said in relation to what he said in that youth rally and basically everything else, this girl inboxed me a conversation that he initiated with her, and I was like, ew, he's just as nasty as I thought he was. But goes back to what I was saying. These men, these are the men who have sat down in parliament asking to make better laws to protect women out here. It ain't going to happen. It is not going to happen. Till remove this nastiness from parliament, we have no better laws to get. You have to remove these nasty people. You have to. Until then, I expect people like Ralph and Pitbull and them to make laws to protect women. Wait. Rape culture affects every woman. Every woman. The rape of one woman is a degradation, terror, and limitation to all women. Most women and girls limit their behavior because of the existence of rape. In other words, you don't walk late at night because you feel somebody might rape you. You don't put on a short dress because you figure that it's going to get somebody aroused and they might rape you. You don't go to a party alone because you think somebody might rape you. You don't go to the movies alone because you think somebody might rape you. You don't stop at the bus stop alone all in the morning or late in the evening. You have to have a brother to follow you or auntie to follow you or somebody to follow you. Or you try to get a knife in your hand, a pen in your hand, a pepper spray because you figure someone might rape you. You basically do things or don't do things because you figure someone might rape you. And let's not kid ourselves. Women in Simmons walk around like that. Women in Simmons walk around like that. You check your windows 10 and 20 times in the night because you don't want anybody coming in to do you anything. You make sure your door is locked because you don't want anybody to come to do you anything. You don't stop to give somebody a ride because you don't want them to do you anything. Most women and girls live in fear of rape. That is true in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Women are scared for themselves and they're scared for their children. That's why parents insist on giving their girl children a phone and tell them, okay, make sure you're home before 6 o'clock. Make sure you're home before it's dark. Because you don't want anybody raping your child. Men in general do not. So the men will sit down in the block and they will lie until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Unless there's some kind of drug thing or whatever, they have no fear because they don't think anybody's going to come and do them anything. The most the men might fear is that somebody might rob them. Am I right or am I right? That's how rape functions as a powerful means by which the whole female population is held in a subordinate position to the whole male population, even though many men don't rape and many women are never victims of rape. This cycle of fear is a legacy of a rape culture. So the very fact that many women in St. Vincent and Grenadines don't do certain things because they don't want to make themselves a target of rape, all that is to say that there's a rape culture here and it's very strong. It is very strong. Continue. Examples of rape culture. Number one, blaming the victim. She asks for it. She been smiling too much in that video. Watch how she grinning. Watch how she laughing. Look what she doing. She definitely wanted it. Blaming the victim. Not, why did he do that? How could he be so wicked and so nasty and so evil? We go straight on to the woman. Trivializing sexual assault, sorry. Well, them is just children. Boys will be boys. Sexually explicit jokes. I'd have to tell you. Tolerance of sexual harassment. So you're walking on the street and you see a guy sexually harassing a woman, or he talking about her bottom, her breast, or whatever the case is, and you just go your business. You just go your way. I'm not saying that you have to intervene, but I'm saying by tolerating that sort of nonsense, you are perpetuating the idea of a rape culture. inflating false rape report statistics. So you talk about or most of the cases of rape are not true because you want to deny the fact that they are true. It happens that much. And let's not forget one thing here. If there are about 5 reported incidents of rape, there are probably a good 50 that unreported. Goes back to what I said earlier, that many women in St. Vincent and Grenadines, because I'm talking about St. Vincent and Grenadines, are raped for their first sexual encounter and many after. Publicly scrutinizing a victim's dress, mental state, motives, and history. Oh, why he gonna rape she? She been a prostitute. She don't take so much money already. Nobody ain't rape she give him. Or is the money she want? Is attention she looking for? Nobody ain't rape she. Sounds familiar, not true? Gratuitous gendered violence in movies and television. Defining manhood as dominant and sexually aggressive. Defining womanhood as submissive and sexually passive. Pressure on men to score. Pressure on women to not appear cold. Oh, um, you, you have to be a gallus. Yeah? You're defined as a man when you're a gallus. You have to be the girl some sugar. And if you're a woman and you ain't have no man and no man ain't want you, that's what they're gonna say. There's something wrong with you. Because you're supposed to have a man. If you don't have a man in your life, because something wrong with you. Yeah. Assuming only promiscuous women get raped. Assuming that men don't get raped or that only weak men get raped. Refusing to take rape accusations seriously. Here she. And it's this whole thing about assuming not only weak men get raped, like I said earlier, when you coerce somebody into having sex with you, that's rape. So when you tell this man that, oh, if he doesn't have sex with you, you're going to say this about him or you're going to say that about him, that's rape. And most Caribbean men, most Vincentian men would give in because they would not want anybody walking around telling people that they have a small penis or that they can't have sex or they don't know how to do this and they don't know how to do that. So they might just give in. And that's not because the woman has physically overpowered them. And we must understand too that rape has a mental aspect and an emotional aspect to it. They will tell that rape is about power. And that power does not necessarily be, a physical power. It could be a mental power over the person. Teaching women to avoid getting raped instead of teaching men not to rape. Remember when Girl and Miguel stood up in Parliament and talked about how women should dress? That we shouldn't be exposing our breasts and whatever else because we should say the breast is to comfort husbands and to give babies suck. Teaching women how not to get raped instead of saying to men, respect the woman you see. Respect them. They're not here for your entertainment or for your amusement. Respect the woman. Easy to the woman. Don't do this. Don't do that. And Emma, quite right. Whether you're fully dressed or you're stark naked, no is no. And even women in the Middle East who are covered from head to toe end up being raped. So we could say plainly that the way you dress is not a determining factor in whether you're raped or not. Because you could be in a bikini and get raped. You could be in a mini skirt and a tube top and get raped. Or you could be in full hijab and get raped. That's how it is. Now let's continue. Now, how can men and women combat rape culture? One, avoid using language that objectifies or degrades women. Two, speak out if you hear someone else making an offensive joke or trivializing rape. Most of you don't speak out until it's your friend or it's you. A woman pops up today. She says she was raped or sexually assaulted, and you run her down to the ground. You bring up every single thing about her as though to say that justifies what was done to her, or to say that suggests that she was not raped or was not assaulted. You bring up the fact that, oh, that was her man, as though dating somebody or being married to somebody means that they can't rape you or they can't sexually violate you. You talk about the fact that, oh, she accepted money from him or he accepted money from her, as though that gives consent to sex. You do all these things instead of looking and saying, I respect you. I am happy that you're able to speak your truth. And I hope you get justice. Because as I said to somebody today, we will never ever get the full story of any of these things. Never ever. And I'm not the person who is going to dig in and asking somebody who will tell me everything. But I will believe you. I will believe this young lady, Sion, as well as I believed Oline and everybody else. Because when somebody stands up and tells you, I have been violated sexually, that's it. And another thing, somebody could rape you today. You could be with a boyfriend, a husband, or whoever. They could rape you today, and you could have consensual sex with them the next day. Somebody having raped you once does not mean that you can't go on to have a consensual relationship with them. Doesn't mean that. Because many of you, like I said, if you look back at the very first time you had sex with your husband or whoever, most likely it was rape. Most likely. Because I'm sure there was some sort of coercion involved in it. At some point, you might have said no, and he said, you don't like it, relax. And you relax and you figured, well, yes, I gave consent. No, you didn't give consent. You were coerced. And if you were coerced, that's rape, boo boo. Continue. Think critically about the media's messages about women, men, relationships, and violence. How does the media talk about these things? I must say that I see some media houses trying to change the discourse, and I'm glad. I appreciate that, and I hope many more continue. I want them to understand that they have a very big role to play in this. A couple of years ago, I went on WFM's description of their employees. I'm not even sure why I was there. And there was a certain description of a young lady that I read, and I was like, of all the things to say about somebody, I'd have to try and find them back and see if it's still there. But it was very distasteful, very distasteful. But I guess whoever wrote it thought it was cute. Okay, it says, be respectful of others' physical space, even in casual situations. Respect that circle around people. Yeah, 3 feet, 3 feet. I know many of you saw the photo with Ralph at this girl's home, and he's with one hand on the chair and leaning into her, like up in her face. And I'm there thinking to myself, oh, Jesus, Spanish is so disgusting. Now, I want you to look at the way Ralph takes out photos with women, and I want you to look at the way Lorraine Friday takes out photos with women. Look at Ralph's body language when he's taking photos with women and children, and I want you to compare it to the body language of Lorraine Friday. You would see a distinct difference. When Dr. Friday takes out photos with anybody other than his wife, you see him maintain a respectable stance and a respectable distance from the person. And his hand is usually down. If the person hugs him, that's one thing. Now I want you to look at the way Ralph does it and tell me which one of them looks like a statesman. Lloyd is saying a lady was waiting at a lonely highway for a ride to go to work. It was about 5:15 a.m. and she had to reach work for 6 a.m. sharp. While she was on one side of the main road waiting for a bus, she saw a young guy at the other side of that highway in the bushes with his hands down but in his pants, looking at her without taking off his eyes. I told her she must be very careful. And it's just a shame that that's what happens, or that's what is happening, or that had happened. Continues. Always communicate with sexual partners and do not assume consent. And that's why I said to you earlier that in some jurisdictions, the law clearly states that you must have the consent, the clear consent. There's a special word I saw in one of these on one of these laws, but you must have clear consent from the individual. And for those of you who just joined, I also said that what is being taught in many sex ed classes is that you have to establish consent during every single step of any sexual act. Don't think that because somebody said it's okay to kiss them, it is also okay to have sex with them. Don't think that. And ask it. Make sure you get the voiced consent. Is this okay? So don't think that, okay, because you started kissing on this person and they seem to be aroused, it means no, that they want to have sex with you. That person might have sex with you then, and you never establish consent for sex, and that person ends up leaving you feeling as if you've raped them because they did not have any intentions to have sex with you. But guess what? They're there, and in their mind, there's a million and one things going through their mind. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm here in his apartment alone. What if I say stop? And then he stops and kicks me out. How am I going to get home? I don't have any money for the taxi. Who I could call at 1 o'clock to come and bring me home. What am I supposed to do? And so they allow you to do what you want to do. Not that they gave you consent, Not that they gave you consent. Not that they gave you consent. But because everything else just seemed a little bit more frightening. Be very careful out there. Ensure that you have established, voiced consent. Okay, it says define your own manhood or womanhood. Don't make anybody feel or make you feel that if you're not out here having sex with every Tom, Dick, or Harry, or every Jane, Clementine, and Caroline, that you're not a man or you're not a woman. Don't let anybody make you feel as though if you're single, something is wrong with you, and you have to prove them wrong. Don't. You define what is manhood for you. You define what is womanhood for you, and you live in your truth. You live in your life. That's it. Don't let anybody direct that for you. Don't. Do not let stereotypes shape your actions. Don't. So you're young and you're good looking, and people figure, well, yeah, you must have the most woman. Don't live that life. Don't live that life. Get involved, join a student or community group working to end violence against women. So stop being a spectator. Stop pretending that you don't see what's happening. Stop pretending that you're not aware of all the things that are happening around you. And become a voice. Become active in what is happening in your community. Stand firmly. Speak out. Educate others based on what you know and guide them to others who might be able to give them even better direction. But don't stay silent, and please don't victim blame. Do not become part of the mob to harass anybody who comes forward to say that they've been sexually assaulted or sexually abused or raped or whatever the case is. Don't do it. Hey, Curtis. Well, I figured, tonight, let me just do this because it's not something I've done for the first time, but we always need reminders. We always need reminders. Now, the other thing is police. We now see our situation, our country is in a state where, unless something has to do with the prime minister and his people, the police don't act. The police don't act. And we as a people, we have to change that. We have to change that. You don't even hear anything about the ministries or from the ministries responsible for these things. Today's a baby, tomorrow another baby, next day another baby, and people like Orande, what's his surname now? Brewster, the silent, Ralph Silent. Because guess what? They don't have any integrity to speak on these things. How Orande Brewster could stand up and tell you that rape is wrong and that we need to do things to protect our women and children and others who are vulnerable, when he in a cabinet sit down following the directions of the most accused prime minister. How? You think Orlando Brewster could push anything to enforce or to change laws here in this country related to rape when he sits and worships Ralph? Really? Orlando Brewster, Ralph Gonzalez, please. Gusta Stevenson couldn't do it. Refused to do it. Orlando Brewster ain't gonna be any different. He's not gonna be any different. And what you notice, or what I have been noticing is that this whole ULP seems to be some sort of sex cult. It's always something, some sort of sexual something happening out here with them. That's it. Now the lady comes out and she says that she was violated um in a sexual manner. And here comes Pitbull, and his first thing is, if Facebook is a place for discuss this. That's another thing. You don't tell anybody how and when and where to talk about their trauma. That ain't on you. If the person wants to go to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a nurse, a doctor, the teacher, the preacher, the whomever, and talk about it, that's their business. If they want to go on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and talk about it, that's their business. Now tell me, at the end of it, you know which taxi not to go in, all right? You know what to do, and you know now to be a little bit more cautious, I suppose. And as somebody said, we're having the discussion. We're having the discussion because of her situation. What by the time I got on her live, she had already gone to 18,000 views, and I'm glad. And I'm glad she went on Facebook and talked about it because, like I said, when people like Kissel and Ken, it's Kesrick or Kenrick, whatever his name is, the boy for Selman Walters, when people like them could one sit and lie to the United Nations about the things that are happening here in St. Vincent and Grenadines in relation to women, you need people like that young lady to speak the truth. And you need that to reach up to 40,000 views. You need that video to go viral. Because guess what? When these things are shared on Facebook, when they're shared on any sort of social media platform, the truth goes out. And that's why I keep saying to you over and over and over, we here, we will be the journalists. We will tell our stories. We would expose what's happening to this country to the world. And that's how change is going to come. That's how change will come in this country here. When Silvers and Grenadines is torn up under the international microscope and people see us for who we are, because right now we have Ralph and them going around and lying to the whole world and telling them how things in Sim is just fine and dandy. But when you see people who have been victims come on Facebook and talk their truth and share exactly what's happening here, after a while, we will get the attention, that we need to cause change in this country. It has happened to other countries before, where they've been forced to clean up their act in order to get international aid. So that's the route that we need. So yeah, Pitbull, as a young lady rightfully said, she knows that because her alleged assailant Declan McMillan is connected to the ULP party, she ain't going to get no justice. She's going to end up like a Mr. John. So she is gaining her justice by speaking, taking back her power. She is taking back her power, and I commend her for that. And like I said, we as the citizens of this country here, we have to tell the truth because we can't depend on Ralph and Kissel and Kenrick and them to go to you and tell them the truth. We can't depend on them to do that. But you see these videos, when these videos hit Facebook and they hit all over, you see Pitbull still thinks that she is her video is just for the locals. Mm-mm. It ain't just for the locals. It ain't just for the locals. Let the world see. And I think Winston was the one who said that in the video there were three women, total of three women, and each claimed to have had such an experience. And they're not alone. I could tell my stories too. And I'm sure that many of the women on this live could tell their stories. Perhaps when all of these raw, unedited truths go out to the world, then is when international bodies would start taking a closer look on St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the government might actually be forced, because Ralph love to beg. He loved to beg. So they might simply say to him, well, here what? Let us see some improvement in the laws there that affect the lives of women and children, and then you could get this money over here so that you want. Let us see better enforcement. So we want to see them figures increasing in terms of people who have been convicted for these crimes. Let us see some improvements there. And then you could get the money over here that you wanted too. This government has to be starved, I think. I think that's the only how we're going to see change in this country, if they remain there. But I'll tell you plainly, we don't have until 2025 for this government. Our aim as a people has to be to get rid of these people once and for all in the year 2022. Because by 2025, so many lives would have been destroyed, we won't have a country left. We will not have a country left in 2025. So we have to ensure that at the end of this year, I shouldn't say at the end, by the end of this year, we have a totally different government in place. Because we ain't going to survive with them people here. We're not going to survive with them at all. Now, a couple of things I want to bring up, but time has already gone. I know some of you have already been seeing the increases on the supermarket shelves. I went to Massey, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and this lady walking through the aisle, she was like, "Geez, you, me just buy this the other day for $4, or reach $6 and something." Don't talk about the prices at the we call it hardware stores. Prices have gone up. Fitz, Bruce, Friday warned y'all about these things in Parliament. Warned y'all about this. And you continue to allow this thieving, corrupt, illegitimate government headed by Ralph Gonsalves to bamboozle you. You continue to take all the nonsense and the lies that they tell you, and you believe them, knowing fully well that your pockets are telling you another story. So they come and they tell you, oh, things nice in this country. Well, we forever need cost of an economic takeoff in especially as it relates to tourism. This going to happen, that going to happen. Failed project after failed project. They could find millions to go into geothermal again, and nobody come and tell me that fracking up at that geothermal project did not cause the eruption of a volcano. Can't convince me of that. You cannot convince me of that. I would repeatedly say, as far as I'm concerned, all the fracking that was done up there is what caused the volcano to erupt. And that's why the company left in the dead of night, and the government didn't tell all anything. And then Ellsworth come out and tell all, oh, they sent tools to Trinidad to sharpen. But the tools are them there. When you go on the company's website, the company telling you plainly, they're going somewhere else to drill. They're done with St. Vincent. They could find money for all of these things, but they can't find money to give you a better hospital. Because guess what? If you get a better healthcare system, you start taking pride in yourself. When you don't have to go down to Milton Keto and put your head on a cardboard box, or had you hitting you wherever or in the morning, and you have to put up sheet to protect your newborn. When you don't have that happening to you, you start getting pride in yourself. When you actually have a national stadium, athletic stadium, not a track, when you have a national theater, when you have a national concert hall, these things bring pride, cultural pride. And when you see people start getting cultural pride, they start demanding more of the people who are in government. Ralph Gonsalves is not going to do anything to impose sanctions. Not now, not ever. All he's going to do is to continue to fatten his pocket, continue to fatten his children's pocket. And anybody else who bows to him and helps to keep him in power so that he could do all this fattening will be taken care of. But you see, sanctions, they'll need to stop it. Look, today, this evening, people over the river couldn't get home again. Could not get home again. And I don't understand why those people over there are so quiet. How could you be so quiet with all of these wicked things that are being done? How? And that, oh, I ain't going to talk about that cocaine buster. I ain't going to talk about it to suspect. As old people that say it to suspect. Like that's the right name. People over the river couldn't get home this evening. But the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right, could find millions for geothermal project. But to build bridges to help those people over the river, nothing. Nothing. But them sit down, they quiet still. Not even water them have proper out this still. But they're very quiet. So Ming is saying her family just came back from SVG a few hours ago, and they say buying things in SVG ridiculously expensive. When we live here, I could tell you, and I would tell anybody, if you're coming home, pack your barrel. Send your barrel for say, hey, don't come here to buy no food. Especially if you see a special diet, let's say doing something gluten free or no GMOs, whatever kind of thing. Pack your stuff and send them. Pack your thing and them and send them, because a cereal, for instance, that you buy this is for $2, we're paying $23, $25 on here for it. Pack your stuff and send them down. No money, Andrea. No money. And they're over there quiet, quiet, quiet. But you have a government telling you it's going back to geothermal. And not just that, it's going to build state-owned hotels. And a temporary permanent plus a temporary parliament, plus a permanent parliament eventually. But no hospital and no bridges over the river. No proper road over the river. No proper infrastructure over the river. But y'all sit down quiet. And all the jumping up Labour. Labour loves poor people. Labour loves poor people. Meaning, Labour loves you when you are poor. And that's why they will do everything to keep you poor. Because when you see you ain't poor no more, Labour ain't love you, no. When you start to stand up for yourself and you start to demand better treatment, Labour ain't love you no more. Ralph ain't love you no more. Ralph love you poor. Ralph loves you poor. So he does everything in his means to keep you poor. You hear what Camilla say? Even if you qualified for a scholarship, you have to go and knock. You have to go knock on Ralph door. Why? Even if you are qualified for a scholarship, you have to go and knock on Ralph's door. Why is that? Because they love you when you're poor. They love to take advantage of you. That's what it's all about. So they want to always have you with your hand out. That's why they would increase the amount on poor relief, right? But would not put proper things in place for people to own their own businesses. And no, Prime is not a proper thing in place. Prime was money given out to gain votes for elections. That's why in Eastern Georgia, most of the Prime money was given to people in Eastern Georgia. Don't doubt me, it was printed in the newspapers. As a matter of fact, most of it went in Glen. And the bugger still lost in Glen. Good. Prime would make sense if you had training for the people who are getting the grants. Prime would make sense if you had a follow-up and a report on where the project went well and where it didn't. But with no accountability and with money only going in people's hand to gain votes, primary made no sense. It ain't made no sense. So say, listen, and that's the truth. He loved them poor and begging every day and selling on the dirty street with no bathrooms. Oh Lord, still why you have to bring this up? Why you have to bring this up still? You saw the video, right? Videos. Video from Doug King Howard, video from Brian Alexander, 2 different days. And I want to address something here that Doug King got a little licks for, where he said that tourists were coming in and so forth, and we must keep the place clean. Sorry, not that we please keep the place clean, that the place wasn't clean. And a friend of mine commented and she said, Juanita, that it's not about just the white people but us. And that's true. That's true. The sad thing is, you see poverty, you see indigent poverty, extreme poverty, like that which has taken over St. Vincent, it leads to that. It leads to what we're seeing in Kingstown. It's just a straight off effect. And I understand what Doug was saying, because remember, this is the same government that forced taxi drivers to get vaccinated. This is the same government that forced tour guides to get vaccinated, because they said what? If you're vaccinated, you get a piece of the tourism dollar. Glenn always talking about tourism, this and tourism, that Glenn ain't doing shite at the tourism authority. And shite ain't happening at the Ministry of Tourism either. Now, here we are. We're talking about we're going to increase this and we're going to see how much tourist ship coming in the country. But coming in the country to go away. People need to do? People need to come out. When you say you have a tourist boat in Kingstown, you must come out and block the roads leading out country. Any road or going out country, block them. Let them be forced to drive through Kingstown and they will see trouble. Let them be forced to take the tour buses and go through Kingstown and take them places like Fort Charlotte on the bumpy road up Edinburgh and places down Leeward. Let them be forced to drive through Kingstown and see the nastiness that is Kingstown. I want to know if when the Japanese ambassador came here, if they took him to Little Tokyo. And if they did take him to Little Tokyo, what did they say to him? I don't think they took him to Little Tokyo, I don't think they took him to Little Tokyo at all. Because I would be ashamed. It's like somebody giving you a brand new house. You know, they're not for the house. They get a house. And the next, how much years? Is it 92, I think? The Japanese government built Little Tokyo. They come back and everything in the house will break down. The roof collapsing, the windows broken, the door rotten, the yard in a mess, the whole house look like though it's supposed to go in a garbage bin. You go shame to take them to the house, to see the house. Look at the state of Little Tokyo. Some of you on this live, you never seen Little Tokyo looking anything than what it is now. When Little Tokyo was built, and our parents used to be like, don't be liming over Tokyo. Because they had the shops there, and in the shops used to have men drinking and so forth in the shops. But I tell you this much, what you see in there now is a far, far, far cry from what we had. Because you didn't have a situation where people had to go up to high school bus stop and them kind of thing as now. Many of the people who go to these bus stops now, they don't go simply because it's to catch a van, it's because it's safer than Little Tokyo. Little Tokyo is nasty. Nasty. But yet, we ready for tourism. You have dead dogs around this country on the streets until they turn into nothing but fur on the pitch. And we're ready for tourism. We're ready for tourism. It's these are the things that we have to fix. If we don't fix these little things, we can't open our mouths that we're ready for tourism. We can't. So when we start talking about tourism product, and when we start talking about empowering people, you have to fix all of these things. I was told that the people who build we call it the pallet shop in front of the bigger big business got a prime grant. I ain't sure how true this is, but that's what I was told, that they got a prime grant. So they got a prime grant and they put down a pallet thing in front of bigger bigs. A lot of the reasons or a lot of the issues that we're having right now is because the ULP gave their party supporters the run of Kingston. And so now they can't talk to them. Julian and them said they're repairing market, and they built market, one in front of Sicky Graves up the road and the one downtown. The market they open yet. They take customs warehouse. I think it was a customs warehouse. See them put market stall inside the big thing in elections. It open yet. They come down across by the Iron Man in front of the store. That open yet. Camelo say he built mall in Glen. Them open yet. Them can't open because guess what? Too much people get promised for them things. Eh? They have the people out here running around lawless. No, they can't reel them in. No, they're afraid to reel them in. No, they are afraid to reel them in. And that's the situation that we have here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. Oh, Andrew, Andrew said that was the happiest place in Kingston. Look, Little Tokyo was thriving. Remember, Little Tokyo was even on a postcard, and I remember the postcard. I think it was a postcard and a cable and wireless phone book. I could be wrong on the phone book part, but I know for sure it was on a card because pictured in that card was a convent girl and a St. Martin's boy standing up by a pole. Shelly, you hearing me? Yep. One of our prime couples back in the day. Yep. They were there and that day when that photo was taken. And I could always say, oh look, Shelly. Ming Ming said, give back those glory days when Kingston was Kingston. Even on the NCB, they have people under there who support ULP taking over the street. So much so that when my auntie passed, they sometimes used to give you some word like rain. So they allow the people to take over the whole of Kingston. How Kingston looking now like a giant rundown ghetto. And they can't talk to the people anymore. Hey Leslie, they can't talk to them. And that's why the town looking so. And that's why every 2 days you hear they come out, oh, we're going to clean up Kingston. And you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, and nothing happen. Because it's the people. It's the people. So Andrew was saying it was on a phone book. If it was on a phone book, it was on a card too. Little Tokyo. If you see Little Tokyo, nice. It's we call them roof that they had. It wasn't what kind of roof is that? Fancy roof. Hey Charlene, fancy roof. The only thing that was wrong was that when the rain come, The little umbrella and them couldn't shelter you from the rain. You used to have to try to squeeze in and let the people who come now after you be your shelter. That was a big issue. The little umbrella and them couldn't help in rainy times. But what should have happened is that the place should have evolved. It should have evolved, not be allowed to turn into a ruin. Little Tokyo looked like a place where, look, I don't even know how to describe it. You've seen the videos. If you haven't seen the videos, go on my page, the show, go on Brian Alexander's page, go on Doug King Howard's page, and you see what Little Tokyo has become. And with that, I am ending tonight. I shall see you soon. Remember, at the next sitting of Parliament, there will be another protest. And let me say this much. I know that some of you are unhappy with what you're seeing in terms of protest action. But let me say this to you plainly. Stop expecting that Vincentians are going to become super empowered overnight, having been brainwashed by Ralph Gonsalves for decades. It's not going to happen. Many people who have lost their jobs are still hoping or still have hope that Ralph is going to come to them at some point and say, you know what, you're getting back your job tomorrow. Charlene, I wouldn't have said I like it so. They're just defeated. Defeated. When you see you've mentally beaten down a people, you know. That we don't forget, you know, people walked into slavery. People stayed in slavery. People watched their children and grandchildren being killed by slave owners and didn't rebel. There was always the few who would rebel. Always a few, always a handful. You had thousands of slaves on a plantation, thousands, but you'd only find two, three, if you find five rebelling. But thousands were there, though they were only being guarded, let's say, by 20 or so whites. Because the slavery was not just the physical bondage, it was hair and it was hair. And you see that sort of slavery, that mental slavery, that emotional slavery, that you don't break that overnight. You could release a man or woman from physical enslavement and they will still behave as though they're enslaved. Because that mental change is not going to come immediately. So don't expect that having been in bondage, in mental bondage for some 20 odd years, having been indoctrinated by Ralph for over 40 years, that all of a sudden every Vincentian is just going to hit the street and there's just going to be mass chaos. Stop expecting that. Because if you're expecting that, it goes to say that you don't understand how humans operate. Simple. I can't say it any easier than that. And the other thing to do is to know, to understand, to acknowledge the fact that everybody ain't the same. Everybody's not an Adriana King. Just today I was telling somebody when I came home from Taiwan, I was told to go to Straker to get a job in foreign affairs. And I said no. Somebody else would have done it and would have been in foreign affairs now. Who knows doing what? Good or bad. But I figured that I was coming home trained. So all I needed to do was to go to service commissions, say, I'm back, hand over my certificate, and I would have been placed in a suitable job. I couldn't see why I had to go to Straker. I couldn't see it. And so I refused to do it and I didn't do it. And when I was offered the teaching job, I took it up. Everybody's not going to be like that. Everybody's not going to be a Kenson King. Everybody's not going to be a Nikisha Williams. I can. Everybody's not going to be like that. Don't expect that you're just going to have this change. It's not going to happen. The other thing is, if you're coming out to protest for somebody other than yourself, your children, and your grandchildren, and people who you love, then you're not on the protest line for the right reasons. Don't come out on the protest line and say, or don't refrain from coming out on the protest line and say, oh, you're not coming out to stand up for them because they're not stand for themselves. Let me tell you something. If you live in St. Vincent and Grenadines, ultimately, what this regime does is going to affect you. So if you don't want to come out on the protest line for you, if you don't want to come out on the protest line to ensure that your grandchild or your child grows up in a better St. Vincent and Grenadines, then don't come out on the protest line. But don't stay home and say you ain't coming out for teachers, or you ain't coming out for civil servants, or you ain't coming out for this one because they ain't coming out for themselves. You should come out to ensure that your grandchild grows up in a safer environment. You should come out because at some point when they start elevating the taxes, they're going to lick your behind too. Not just the teachers, not just the public servants, you too. Anything that this government does affects you. Hey, Ming Ming, anything, take care of anything this government does affects you. So when you come out on this protest line, you stand up for yourself. You stand up for your children. I stand for me. I stand for my daughter because my daughter has plenty mouth, and she can't grow up in a communist country. You see the way Ralph taught in this country here? My daughter can't grow up in that kind of country there at all. So I have to ensure that I do my bit so that she could grow up in a country where she could talk, where she could criticize her government. And you should be on the protest line because you want the same for your children. Not because they stand up. Well, if you want to stand up for public servants, so be it. But don't stay home and tell people you ain't coming out because you ain't stand up for public servants. That's not why you're coming out. That should not be why you're coming out. And the other thing about protests, when it comes to voicing concerns, when it comes to showing your opposition to what a government is doing, protest is enshrined in our constitution as a means to do so. And so we have to exercise our constitutional rights. Have to. And no, we do not need to give the police commissioner any sort of notice for protest. None whatsoever. Tell Colin put that in his pipe and smoke it. You don't need to. Exercise your right. Stand up in defense of your democracy. That's it. That's it. So, next sitting of Parliament, be there. Be there to stand up for you. Be there to stand for your children. Be there to stand for your country. Be there because you want to have a better St. Vincent and Grenadines. And with that, I say good night. Sorry for the late start, but I will not keep you beyond the usual end time. So enjoy the rest of your week. And as long as we all have health and strength, we shall meet again next week. Kenson is back on Facebook, so the rant would be on a separate page look out for that page, tag a friend, let them know what's going on. Sleep well. Love you. Mwah.